So, Big Plate Chicken from Xinjiang is kind of a weird dish. Because, a lot of Xinjiang food is fare like polo or naan bread, stuff that you could also find well across the stands. But Big Plate Chicken? I mean, chicken cleaved across the bone, a tangsa caramel, pixian doubanjiang. Shit, some versions even braise with beer. The thing just screams Han Chinese, and so was thought to have come to the province by way of Sichuan migrants. But kind of weird is that there doesn't seem to be any direct Sichuan equivalent. And compounding the mystery, over 2,000 kilometers away in the city of Yuncheng in the Shanxi province, they also have their own dapanji, that is, a big plate chicken. Now, Shanxi, historically, is one of the epicenters of Chinese culture, so you'd be forgiven for wondering aloud if maybe Yuncheng was the true dapanji origin all along. But unfortunately, that is totally not the case. The mystery is still very much unsolved. Yuncheng dapanji definitely moved from Xinjiang back. You see, underneath Yuncheng is a town called Ruicheng, which sits beside Highway 30, a major trucking route between central China and Urumqi that was opened up in the late 90s. Reportedly, in the early aughts, this dish was forged in Ruicheng as a way to feed some hungry truck drivers, turning that noodle-laced braise into a smaller noodle soup that you could have by yourself on the go, complete with big hunks of chicken thigh. Now, we should probably say upfront here that we've never been to Yuncheng ourselves. To be completely honest, we're just really huge fans of the Chinese travel vlogger Axing. Huge recommendation if you don't know him already. And we completely learned about this thing from his recent Yuncheng video. There wasn't much of a plan. This dish wasn't on the schedule. Basically, the process went see delicious noodle, desire delicious noodle, research delicious noodle, make noodle because we just wanted to eat noodle, and then feel like we had to tell you about it practically immediately because it was just that delicious. Of course, one of the big reasons why it's just so awesome is that the noodles themselves are Chenmian, home-style, hand-pulled noodles. So while in a sec I'll hand it off to Steph to cover how you can sort that project, at the same time, definitely don't let it stop you. Want to use some fresh packaged ramen? I mean, why not? Or maybe spaghetti, kind of like our recent video? Go for it. Or I don't know, whatever you seem to stumble on at your local Asian market. I mean, you are the Chef John of your Noodle Xinjiang.
So, okay, before we show you how to make the noodles, we want to share with you some general Chenmian strategy. Homemade hand-pulled noodles needs a pretty long resting time, so it will be smarter to break it into a couple steps and just make the final assembling easier. So if we are turning this into a relaxing cooking experience either for weeknight or weekend, I highly recommend you to have this recipe be a two-person job. For us, when doing this kind of things, Chris usually makes the soup or the dish and I'll make the noodles. Splitting up the work makes it easy for both of us, so if you have a cooking buddy, this will be a great recipe for a little kitchen co-op. Second thing, before we get into the recipe, we should probably review real quick the kneading motion for hand-pulled noodles. So this is not Lanzhou ramen or anything intense. So for this kind of hand-pulled noodle, you'll probably get a reasonable result with your regular kneading method or even with a stand mixer, as long as you rest the dough for long enough. But if you can change your kneading method a little bit, it will make it easier to pull at the end. So this technique is called making the abacus string. The fundamental idea is to curl the dough onto itself and align the gluten into a string. So you do it by this. First, flattening the dough. Second, use the bottom of your palm, press it down and smear it out. And curl it back about 1 inch, move over and repeat. And finally, once you are at the end and the dough got longer, fold it in half, press it flat, and repeat the curling motion. We'll have an uncut video for the whole process down in the description box, but don't stress too much because as you can see in the video, Good enough, it's good enough. So to maximize our long resting time, the night before you eat the dish, we can prepare our noodle dough. So this is just 200 grams of some box standard AP flour. But if you are in China, the brand Saibei share it's really good for noodles and dumplings. And if you are in the West, some Caputo 00 pizza flour, it's also really good for making Chinese noodles. So now first, dissolve 2 grams of salt in 100 grams of water. Sprinkle the water onto the flour bit by bit. Stir occasionally. Once all the water is in, press the flour into a ball and make sure no dry flour is left behind. Then cover and let it rest for at least 30 minutes. Because once water hits flour, the gluten in it will start to form, so we'll give it 30 minutes to let the dough work by itself first. And 30 minutes later, we can start kneading. Just take your dough, press it into a rectangular shape, use the back of your palm, press and kind of smear it down and slightly outward. Then fold that bit back onto the log, move over and repeat. And this is making the abacus string. Once you reach the end, fold the dough in half, press it flat again, then repeatedly making some abacus string, extend the dough longer and fold again and flatten again. Keep kneading for about 8 to 10 minutes. After the final folding and flattening, just cover and let it rest for 10 minutes. Come back after that time, roll it out a couple times in each direction and into a rectangle that's about 1 centimeter thick. Cut that rectangle in half, then cut it into 1 centimeter wide sticks. Do remember which direction is our longer side because that will really affect how long we can pull our noodles. Now, after cutting, add some oil to your plate. Thoroughly coat each stick in oil to prevent drying out. Arrange them neatly, then cover with plastic wrap. Make sure the wrap is neatly touching the surface of your noodle stick so that no air gets in to dry out. Then cover in the bag, set aside in the fridge till you are ready to pull the noodle the next day. Next day, take the noodle out of the fridge to come back to temperature when the cooking starts.
So then, now that it's the next day, let's start that braise. The protein's pretty simple here, just 1 large chicken leg per person that'll be cleaving across the bone. As an aside, leg is a pretty great beginner cut for cleaving because basically all you have to do is just chop down with force into roughly 1.5 inch chunks. Or alternatively, if you want to go boneless here, that's totally valid too. But in that case, just aim for something a little bigger, about 2 inches. Then just marinate those with a 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon chicken bouillon powder, 1/4 teaspoon Sichuan pepper powder, 1/8 teaspoon white pepper powder, 1/2 teaspoon soy sauce, and 1/2 teaspoon Shaoxing wine. Then just slice up 1 datong, Chinese leek, into 1-inch sections, or alternatively the white part from 5 scallions. 5 grams worth of a medium dried chili, cut into about 1.5 inch sections, and 1.5 inches of ginger cut into slices. Then just toss all those, plus a super optional star anise, into the chicken and mix. Coat it all with about 1.5 tablespoons of oil, and let that sit as you're prepping everything else. So then, to a wok, we'll be starting off our braise here with that tangsa caramel. This here was 5 tablespoons of oil, together with 40 grams of rock sugar. Rock sugar because it dissolves a little slower, but granulated sugar is also fine. Add those to a cold, unheated wok. Then turn your flame up to medium-high. Then just slowly fry that all together for about 3 minutes or so. What you'll be looking for is for the caramel to form, settle down at the bottom, and turn a reasonable brown hue. Then just up your flame to maximum, and then toss in the chicken together with all its marinade. At this point, I like to move things around with chopsticks because caramel plus water really likes to turn into hard candy. But after about 3 minutes or so, it should be all evenly browned and no longer quite so sticky. Then just swirl in a bit of wine, Baijiu or Shaoxing, dealer's choice. Swap the flame down to low and add in 2 tablespoons of Pixian doubanjiang, Sichuan chili bean paste. Then let that fry for another minute or 2 to stain the oil and the chicken, and then shut off the heat. Meanwhile, in a separate pot, Toss in 1 tablespoon of Chinese 13 spice powder, or 5-spice powder, half teaspoon of Sichuan pepper powder, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon chicken bouillon powder, and 300 grams of potato cut into large chunks, preferably something on the waxier side like a Yukon Gold or a French fingerling. Then just transfer that stir fry over to your pot, together with 4 cups worth of water. Mix it well, go up to a boil and down to a simmer, and then let that go for at least 30 minutes and up to 45. And now would be as good of a time as any to tag in your noodle puller.
So just take a stick, grab each side between your thumb and your index finger. With a gentle and even force, pull the noodle longer. Once you start to feel some resistance, let it rest on the work surface for a sec, then smack it on the surface a couple times and pull it a bit longer. Wrap it around your fingers to thin it out a bit more if your arms are not long enough, just like me. But no need to be too aggressive here. Once it gets to something like a ramen or spaghetti thickness, set them aside. Work through your noodle sticks. Once the chicken's about done, just toss your noodles in a pot of boiling water. Dip in about half cups of cool water once it comes to a boil so that the noodle can cook through evenly. Then another half cup of cool water once it comes back to a boil again. And when the water comes back to a boil for the 3rd time, heat off, take the noodle out and put it in a bowl. And then the rest is your cooking buddy's job.
And so then to those, also nestle in a bit of lettuce. And then now let's go back to the soup. Season it to taste, and I did another 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper and MSG. Then toss in an optional but recommended 100 grams or so of a fresh green medium chili. Let it boil for about 30 seconds or so, then heat off, and then just transfer that over to the table.
So how to eat this dish? What we usually do is we'll separate our noodles in our each own bowl, and then we will scoop the soup in our own bowls of noodles. And you top your bowl with some chopped cilantro. And optionally, add some Chinese dark vinegar in it. And eat alongside onion pieces. There you go. Enjoy. So right, as always, check out the recipe in the description box. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon, and don't forget to subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.